Hello and welcome to GramFaded, Higher Education with me, the Gram Master Kush.
And me, the faded fairy.
So we're going back to college. We've asked Darragh from Devilharvest Original, could he teach us a little bit about growing? And he got on to his friends at the Cannabis College. So we're going to head around there and he's going to teach us a little bit about growing. I've never grown anything before. Have you grown?
I did a little hemp plant before, but not to the levels of like
not proper growing and
Devilharvest.
stuff. So yeah.
I'm excited.
He's going to teach us just the basics today, but hopefully we can do more. So we're going to head around there now.
Good? Yeah, good. Welcome to the Cannabis College.
Yeah, nice.
Information Centre, Education Centre.
Yeah, so we're going to teach a little bit about growing today?
Yeah, let's talk about cannabis.
Yeah, nice. Go on,
You can make a donation if you want. All
nice.
are welcome. Alright guys, welcome to the Cannabis College. This is the education for all things to do with cannabis, whether it be hemp, growing, or all other aspects to do with cannabis.
Yeah.
It's an information centre, it's quite friendly down here in the red light district. Everyone's welcome to come in here. They have live grown plants downstairs that they can give you a tour. It's really nice. It's also been sponsored by the Sensi Seeds.
Oh, nice, yeah.
They're one of the oldest cannabis seed companies in the world. They're famous for their original genetics. All of these things, they've started from the basis. They came from there.
Yeah.
So they're a company that have kept this place going because there's been times where this is, how would I say, it's all based on donations in here. It's seen as somewhat of like the information centre. They're not really asking you for anything to come in here. But they do like honour if you get a donation.
Yeah, a lot of museums and stuff like that, national places do stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a nice touch just to give back, you know what I mean?
Yeah, just to give back to what they're
They
doing
don't
now.
force you to do it, but they'd like you to help, support, you know what I mean?
So this is the place most people come to learn how to start growing.
Yeah.
And it's an information centre, so it depends on where you are whether or not the rules apply to that.
Yeah.
But in this case, we're here in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
So here in Amsterdam, we're allowed to grow 5 plants.
Yeah.
And today we're going to talk about the very beginning of it is seeds.
Okay.
So we got like different kinds of seeds. There's feminized, regular seeds, autoflower seeds.
Yeah.
They're typically what we're selling to the public on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So in this case today we have feminized seeds.
Okay.
And these are basically seeds that
And is there any way to tell by looking at a seed if it's feminized?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
A seed's a seed. It's got a shell.
So it's the genetics before then they figured it out.
Well, it's the way they did the process of breeding these seeds. They eliminated the males from the population and they reverted a female plant to be a male, basically a hermaphrodite.
Yeah.
And they allowed that pollen to hit off the female plants, and those seeds that are in the pods
will only be feminine.
They'll be about 99% feminized. That's what they
so
say.
You might get hit with the odd male and
you'll get a
and that could
hermaphrodite.
fuck up your whole grow.
It can very easily, but if you can spot it quickly, you can remove it, and then it doesn't seem to be a problem. But with people limited space, they try to get the maximum out of it, so they want 5 plants to be 5 females, and they'll get the most out of their space. With regular seeds are done with a boy and a girl, and we make regular seeds, which have offspring of male and female.
That's how you clone, and that's how you make more genetics.
That's the best way of doing it. Generally, did not jump ahead. You're basically got these methods of growing with regular seeds. They're more stable because they're done in the most natural way with a male, a female plant.
And
those genetics, yes, the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
But with people that they grow out there 5 seeds, maybe half of those could be males, so they're wasting space. So people don't want to lose that space. They tend to go for the feminized. And then there's the third one, which is the autoflower seeds. These are for basically beginners. If you've never ever done this before, it's probably the easiest one to grow. It will automatically flower on a 24-hour cycle. It's usually 80.
I'm guessing they're missing a lot. It's the fact that they're so easy, they're missing something in
potency. So they're
Okay.
got better with all these things, and they're way better at developing them now, and they have flavors, and they are like Jack and the Beanstalk. They just throw them out there and they'll give you results. They're very easy, and literally anyone that will start with those think
idiot
that they,
proof.
If you think you can grow weed,
My
this
kind
is
of
a good way
seeds.
to start. You know, so they're very easy and can be put into all kinds of conditions, and they give a good result.
So they're quite stable.
Yeah.
And would they be more stable for outdoor growing then?
Typically in this northern climate, because they have a quick flowering time that you could start them in like April and they'll be done the middle of July.
Yeah.
So they're a fast flowering cycle.
That's including flower and everything.
The total from start to beginning. Wow. So it all starts with the germination of a seed, and here we've got some of my genetics. I've got my strawberry.
What strain is this?
Strawberry sour diesel.
Okay.
So this is a great strain. It's the East Coast sour diesel back crossed with strawberry cough.
Okay,
Kyle
nice.
Cushman, he's a famous breeder in the States.
Yeah.
And today we're just going to start by germination. It's very simple. We have a little jar of water here.
Yeah.
And that we do is pop in 5 seeds into that water.
Okay.
Now those seeds are in the water. The water's penetrating the shell of the seed, and it's going to begin the growing process of germination.
Okay.
So this will be put into a dark space at around 22 to 25 degrees Celsius, and you leave them in
What's
the
that,
dark
kind of room
spot.
temperature or colder?
A little warmer, I suppose.
No, warmer than room temperature,
just
okay,
a nice little comfortable temperature. We're trying to encourage these seeds to thinking that spring is here and they must grow.
Okay,
So we're
they're
going
in a nice wet kind of ground.
They need to be soaked
That's
down.
what they're thinking they are. They're in a nice wet ground ready to spring's coming. It's getting a bit warmer.
So this is to signal the trigger of like telling the seed, okay, it's time to start. The season is here. So now that they're in the water, within about 24 hours to 36 hours, these are going to sprout a little root.
Okay.
And that little white pistil of a root is the tap root of the plant. It's the very beginning.
Okay.
So the next stage, after about 24 hours, you'll see these things to crack. The shell of the seed will crack open.
Yeah.
And then this little white sprout will come out just like up here.
Okay.
And that's the beginning of it. Now that little white sprout is looking to anchor into its medium, whether that's soil, cocos, or other substrates. Well, basically what you should use.
What it needs to survive. Like.
So and again, to start with this, the most basic way we're going to explain, like the simple way of growing 5 seeds outdoors in Holland.
Right.
Because this is allowed and tolerated.
That's illegal.
Certain degree of toleration. If your plants are seen by your neighbours and they complain, then they have to be removed.
Okay.
If the policeman walks by your house and
nuisance or something,
they see it that way.
Okay.
But it's tolerated that it's acceptable here. That people will grow a few plants outdoors just to have a little bit of a bonus smoke, so they're not wasting all their money in the coffee shop.
Well, like how many months of the year could you grow in Netherlands with their weather?
Well, you only get one season.
So you've won. So what would the latest you could start to grow if you wanted to grow outdoors in Netherlands?
June, July, you could still get
June, July you want to start?
Yeah.
And then it's by the time that's finished, then your last grow for the year.
Well, what you have is the longest day of the year that we got there, that summer solstice. When that happens, it's the longest day of the year. Yeah. After that, the light starts to go back and get darker. So this is when the plants are all triggered to go into a flowering cycle.
That's when you trick them when you change the lights and all.
That's when you grow indoors. You flip it to 12-12, and that's the reason they'll say it takes 2 weeks to see the plant change and stretch and develop flower. Because outdoors it slowly happens, and it takes longer because that progression of summer into
natural,
autumn.
It's
a natural cycle that it has.
It has to do with a full life cycle.
Yeah, but we also like to give them a head start. For instance, we're starting the seeds inside. You could throw them out there in the ground and they will germinate and grow.
Yeah. But the auto ones, but not with
No, with all seeds. You could throw them all out in the ground.
Life finds a way, they'll just make it.
They're a plant. They're like grass seeds. They're going to grow in the right conditions of moisture, light, and air.
The most potent or beautiful plants, but they'll grow in some way.
It's literally called weed for a reason.
It finds a way.
Yeah, so it gets in there and it will survive in the most fierce conditions. But if you treat it like your baby, you start it well, knowing
look after it every day.
This is a delicate thing to begin with. And if you start it inside and the seeds we've germinated, next thing we need to transplant them into preferably a pot of soil, a small cup of soil. Okay. Nothing too large for the beginning.
What kind of soil is preferable, or is there different?
Well, you wouldn't use pot and soil for house plants because that's got a high pH value. And these are all extra details we don't need to fuss about this moment. But preferably, there's so many grow shops around the world, you can find a good soil. And there's many different companies there for growing cannabis. So
they'll actually put certain nutrients. And
they give you a mixture of the soil blend, and that's designed for particularly the cannabis plant. And it's now, we'll say, most people here would buy their soil from a blocker or any little hardware store. That's preferably for flowers that are grown outside.
Normal plants.
And those plants need a higher pH in their growth. And they're flowers that look pretty. These are flowers that we combust. and we smoke, ingest
You
it.
can see there behind you now, actually, while we're talking about it.
Yes, this is the germination.
It's
the very beginning.
That's the root that comes out.
This is where it all starts. Once that starts, it's off to the races. You're under a time cycle. Once you put these plants into these little pots of soil, you wet down the soil lightly, and that's the hard thing to explain to people about how much water to give.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance for sure.
Yeah, you can overdo it, underdo it. To be honest, most people in the beginning, they do it all wrong. So when you start growing with seeds, you sort of got to know that most likely you'll fail, but if you're going to try again, you will have success. So you got a learning curve. If you've never grown a plant, definitely.
I've never grown anything at all.
It's either going to come to you naturally, or you're going to realize this isn't for you. So it's one of those things that divides like the customer from the grower. The growers are usually big smokers that just don't.
But they're also passionate about the grow, like you know what I mean. It is. It's like as you said, like their baby. You know what I mean.
Well, the plant will sort of communicate to you as far as you treat it right. You'll see it live well, and then the reward is at the end once you roll it up and smoke in your own grown herb. There's nothing else like it.
I'd say so. I'd say even the worst grows taste nice when you grew it yourself.
They
like
do,
you know what I mean.
So those early grows that I grew were some of the best I ever had. I'm sure if I got it back now,
you wouldn't even smoke it.
So there's the beginning of the doing basic and getting a result, and then to become like a grower and like an advanced grower. That's all the little details that you'd find in a book like this. Is called the Cannabis Bible.
Okay,
it's done by
so it has all the answers in there.
Well, this is the best said it's a reference book, and it's very good for anyone that knows nothing about this, because any problem you have, you can refer to this book.
Okay,
you can literally look at the plant and see the leaves are discolored. You can look that up here. And they've got references of different stages of sickness. They tell you about germination. They tell you about all the things from beginning to end. And even include things like making hash as the process, the extract. So there's a lot of like information here, but it's too much in one book. There's a lot of grow books out there, and as you begin, there's a few simple ones that I like. There's one author called Ed Rosenthal, and he's got a book called Indoor Cultivation, which was one of my favorite. It's a small, handy book. And it's just it's a new, how to say it. Nowadays, the information is flooded there. Back then, when Ed was writing these books, you couldn't directly tell people how to grow weed. So with these books, you kind of had to read in between the lines. So it was Closet Cultivation. Sorry, that was the book.
So he could tell you without telling you, kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
in a way. And Ed is a character that's written a lot of books for the cannabis scene. And there's been others, like for instance, the guy that writes this Cannabis Bible, his name is George Cervantes. And he's well known through the cannabis community. And he's other books, not just this, but there's other people like Robert C. Clark. There's Soma Seeds. He's got a really good book that I recommend to anyone that's learning the basics. That book is the most straightforward without complicating things. Because all these other books are complicated.
Get a bit more detail.
So you
so did you learn from books alone, or did someone teach you too?
No, I learned it all from living in Ireland. I had no education about this, and I self-taught myself about all of it. But being background down in Kerry, we're already farmers, so we were doing like the garden.
You knew how to grow something.
Well, I understood things. I understood what cloning was, and I understand like cultivation. And to start with, well, firstly, when I was smoking hash in Ireland, I didn't know that it was a plant like weed. As soon as I realised the flower, I was like, wait a minute, I can grow this, and that's why I started. So I got like seeds out of my bag of weed, and I would grow them, and I would get like males and females, and I didn't know what I was doing.
And you didn't even have a book then.
No,
literally just I know how to grow stuff. I'm going to grow.
And the internet was very new at the time, and it was hard to get a hold of it.
Cannabis.
Well, I used to go into the library, and I'd type it in, and I'd print off all these pages.
Anything you could find, like
any scraps of information, you know. So then I got into it, and I had success. But then it really changed when I came here. So I came out to Amsterdam when I was like 18. I went to the Sensi Seed Hash Marijuana Museum. I went through the tour, and it's a really cool tour they have. But at the end of the
these
tour,
are all connected, are they?
They're all family, all one big group now.
Nice,
so
nice.
they all support each other. They're one big company. So with Sensi back then, this was owned by a different company. They were known as the Flying Dutchman Seed Company, run by Ed. And Ed was the guy that originally formed this Cannabis College ID, and he's kept it going for many years. But Ed and the owner of Sensi Seed, Ben Dronkers, they're friends. So when Ed was ready to retire, Ben stood in here and he took over to keep this place going. If he didn't do that, this would not be.
How long is this open?
Oh, this is a long time, man. This is good 30 years it could be open. I got to check that with the guys to know officially how long ago has this been open.
We'll find out. I'll put it on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah. That's a good one. I've lost track of that, but they've been here so long. Even with NCC, they've been here originally. Nice. And at the end of their tour, they have like a grow thing there as well. Oh, nice. Which for me, that just changed my world. And there's a vaporizer. I don't think they have it now, but there was this big ball of vaporizer, the original one. There was no new volcanoes or anything, and this is where it got promoted.
Just the prototype.
Yeah, this is where it came. And there was this guy here, he's called Eagle Bill, and he was a character. So as you go in, he would say you can make a donation, no donation, can ask a question, information is free. So I asked him about growing, and he started telling me all these things about the HPS light bulb, about the Premier seeds. So I was saying, he asked what kind of seeds you grow. I said I grow from baggy wheat. And he's like, no. You see, those seeds are someone's mistake, and you're growing someone else's mistake.
So them seeds you get there, they're hermaphrodite seeds, aren't they? So they're not...
No, it's not like that. Someone had a mistake in their grow room environment, and they had the seeds, pollination, and now they've got, like, you just so happen to buy a bag with a few seeds in there. It's not typical for it to fill it up.
Is that the plant is a hermaphrodite?
Technically, it's a survival mechanism that when there's no males available, the plant is going from season to season. It's one life cycle. So it's like... In nature in India, there's natural hermaphrodites because they pollinate the plants to, harvest next year. So in a grow room, especially indoor stuff, there's little things you can do to interfere with the plants. So when you interrupt the dark cycle, it's like you woke someone up out of bed. And the plants don't like that, so you stress them out. So with growing, it's more about, I suppose, being a stoner, having those plants relaxed. So you don't overwater, because overwatering stresses them. You're drowning them. And then you don't starve them, because underwatering, you're stressing them out as well. So that early stage of getting those problems, that'll happen anyway.
Of
so
course.
You could grow one full plant and you might have a few buds that got pollinated in the lower ends. That's quite typical. But it depends on the genetic as well that you're growing. Is it a strong, vigorous one? Or is it a flavour like cheese? Or like even I have a shoreline strain that I talk about often. That one's tricky. It's a very stressful plant. If you stress it out,
it has to have the right conditions. Or
you got to be a good grower to really take it on. It's not for the beginners. Let's say that. Whereas then the other strains, like my strawberry sour diesel, anyone could grow. And it gets a great result. It's a vigorous plant.
Good yield.
Very good yield. Very good smoke. It's more like an OG kind of family.
Nice.
It's that East Coast sour diesel. It's got a real sweetness to it. Yeah, it's delicious. It hasn't been around in a while, but it's coming back. So
looking forward to that.
Yeah, but we started here in regards that we put in 5 seeds. Now we're on to growing them up under, typically by the window ledge and getting the sunlight, but you can also add like a TL, a fluorescent light. And you don't need much power, maybe like 35 watts of these bulbs. And you
it's changed a lot with the lights, hasn't it? The light
now
game
you have the
is
LED
big
stuff, which is amazing. But for the
power,
basic,
for everything,
for saving electric, even though fluorescents don't really generally cost you that much, but for anyone that has nothing, you can just germinate your seeds, take your TLs, we would call them here, and you make a shelf and you put your little pots under there with a little fan. So these plants all need stimulation. Once they start growing out, they're very delicate.
Of course.
So you'll see the first leaves come out.
The fan is to recreate the wind, isn't it? To kind of make it...
That's the environment.
So
now we've started them growing in this. This is the germination. Now they've gone into pots. And with the pots, they need like to stimulate them. So one is the light to get them to grow up out of the soil. And preferably, I didn't mention that, when you take these germinated seeds, you put them in a depth of soil about twice the size of the seed.
So very shallow.
It doesn't need to be deep.
Down,
just lightly, don't push it too
like just a coaster, kind of just a bit of soil on it, like just a small little...
You can do that to start them as well, but typically into a cup, something like even the size of this soda bottle, you can do things
tiny
like
bit of soil in the bottom.
No, you need like, let's say you'd have like a cup size, and then at the top there, that's at the top of the soil.
You can have lots of soil, but just make sure it's not that deep.
Well, you want the roots to explode in there.
So you want
look at
loads of room for them to grow down.
This is where it all happens. So the root zone is where the brain of the plant is. So when you put the plants into the cups, you put them on the shelf under a bit of artificial light. They'll start to grow very slowly. They'll come out with their first set of true leaves.
And so they go down before they come up.
Yes, they anchor in their root zone. Then you'll see the shell would grow up out of the soil, and it will spread away from the first true leaves. And these leaves aren't cannabis leaves, they're just rounded leaves. Then the next set of leaves will come out, and they're the recognized cannabis leaves. So first time people grow these seeds, they get worried thinking, wait, is that cannabis, or is it, did I get fooled? So then it goes to the next stage, and at that stage the plants are very delicate and the seeds can fall over because they need wind to stimulate them.
So
Once you give them a light, it doesn't have to be a hurricane. Just
No,
a
of
light
course,
bit
just
of
enough
airflow.
to know there's a breeze out there, to
stimulate.
strengthen them
Like
up,
a
you know what I mean?
little
Toughen them up for life, like, pretty
It's
much.
the beginning, and as well, you don't want to stress them in this early stage. You want the roots to start taking over.
Yeah, you don't want to blow away either, you know what I mean?
And as well, at the very beginning, they don't need nutrients, or all you need to do is give them water.
Okay.
A pH valued water ideally, but that's something else I'll go into later.
Yeah.
But with this, it's about giving them a little drink to get them started. Then afterwards, that soil has nutrients in there, and they can use that up for about a week or two before they need
so you
nutrients
just
added.
moisten it a little bit and then leave it for a few. It's not too much water.
You're allowing it to soak up that
Yeah.
water, but you also have to make sure that the thing isn't bone dry, that when you lift it, that it just comes up out of the air with no weight. You have to feel a bit of like weight in there.
It's a balance.
So it's just trying to find that little balance, which is very hard to explain to anyone that starts with
You
it.
kind of
Trial and
basically
error.
have to be there.
Yes, trial and error in its
Yeah.
own way, but it isn't rocket science. It's
Yeah,
not
of
hard.
course,
And you'll know when you overwater because you'll see a big pool of water. So you just punch a few extra holes and let it drain out.
Okay,
so there's ways of dealing with it.
You haven't ruined it straight away. There is ways of salvaging it. And
and as well with your water needs to be good temperature as well. You don't want to shock your root zone, so you want that
Is
water
that
to
a
be
thing with a certain, like, kind of the way you're saying, nearly the same temperature, like 25 degrees
exactly.
or so?
So you need that normal room temperature. And then
slightly above room temperature.
If you give cold water, you'll shock the roots. If you give warm water, they won't like that either. So you have to give that nice thing. They're babies. You won't put a baby into cold water. So just
or
that
boiling water either. You know what I mean?
So you have to think of these
Test
things.
it on
Like,
yourself.
get it going, get it started. This is the hard part in the beginning. Once you get past the first set of true leaves into the next set and the next set, it starts to become a plant.
It's like a baby as well.
Yeah.
The more they grow.
I've heard, because when I was back in Ireland, I got hemp seeds. And I started growing them, and I actually went to my mom, being like, what way should I do this? And she was saying that basically, like, the first two leaves, I should have, once she shooted past it, to take the first two off. Is that a way, or like to strengthen them?
There's two leaves in the background.
It's certain, but she was going off a tomato plant. She was like, they're quite similar in the way they kind of shoot.
Well, she's right, but wrong.
She's
right that that's called topping your plant. So we'll say when
too early,
you wouldn't do it. No, that's too early. You could do that, but you're stressing the plant at that stage. So it just got its baby legs, and you've ripped them off. You need it to like get a little bit of growth going. Then once you have your teenage plant, and let's say it's about 15, 20 centimetre, you can remove the very top. What that does, it splits the plant into growing out more shoots, and it keeps the plant down in the structure. So you strengthen the plant by doing these things.
Right, it hurts a little bit and it comes out stronger.
But these are the details of like stimulating the plant to do what you want it to do. In the very basic way, it's not necessary. You can grow that plant and it'll grow like a Christmas tree. If you don't do anything to it,
just water
it will
and keep
naturally grow with this big cola as the center of the plant. That's originally come from the taproot. But if you remove that, you set those shoots off to the side and you grow out more, like, how would I say it, rather than one large cola. You know what that is? You've seen the big bud. It's just one huge cola the size of my arm. Well, for like shops here and people, they don't buy that weight. You're only buying 5 grams. So you want like small buds. And you want that plant to shoot out and give you like 2 or 3 gram buds.
That big thing, that's going to have a branch right the way through it.
Yeah, a lot of people think you're buying wood.
And then what, you're just pulling bits, clumps off it, really?
Yeah, just like those buds all form next to each other and they build up.
And is it still in bud form, or is it just one joint bud? Nearly?
No, it's all like separate buds that form
that's
together.
what I'm thinking. Like a lot of grapes on a vine. Nearly,
so once you start removing it, you open up, you get into that inner core of like the main stem of the plant. And that's technically what we try to avoid, because it's not... Like back in the day in Ireland when I was like first doing this, I loved that. But then after a while of realising that's not really what people want. They want these solid individual nodes.
That's
like
it.
You
don't want to just pull little bits off and stick for people.
Well, it's like it's a thing of the way it presents itself. It's better to do it this way. But that's getting into the details of like how to advance growth. But it's a simple way of like taking these.
The original one will get you weed. You know what I mean? If you want them to grow weed and smoke weed, that first one is good enough, and it will grow strong and it will all that.
Yeah, but then you go to the next stage of like, we'll talk as outdoor growing is allowed here in Holland. You're allowed to grow 5 plants under certain guidelines. But then you'll take these teenage plants that you've been nurturing and they're now after growing. You possibly top them to divide the branches. Now they're ready to go outdoors. So the next thing is you're going to get more soil. And you'll have nutrients at this stage, and we'd call them vegetative nutrients that you can get. You can either make them cheap, you can buy them from grocery stores, you can even go to any garden centre and typically get the nutrients you need.
Okay, yeah.
It's just
So-
a certain type you're going
And if you're
for.
making
Yeah.
them, what kind of ingredients would be going into it?
Oh, everything could be organic if you really wanted
Yeah.
to be. You know, like you can use like fish mix, like fish guts and stuff like
Okay,
this. You
actual
can-
like proper
the remains
protein,
of the
proper,
fish.
yeah.
Doesn't that come true to some degree? Or could you flush that out after?
Oh, you'll flush all that
Okay,
out.
so
you're
none
going to
of-
brew up your own nutrients, and
Yeah.
these are all their, how to say it, advanced details. So I'm trying to keep this minimal as
Yeah,
far as
Yeah,
no, I
yeah,
know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
excited.
But it's that thing of like, if you understand what nutrients are, they're basically all the same as far as they hold what we call an NPK value.
Okay.
And that's nitrogen, potassium, and
And
phosphorus.
they're the
Okay,
basics of
yeah.
what everything
Of
needs.
all of grown and
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
has to do with
Once you
that.
get them three, they'll do all
But
right.
once you understand those three compounds, you'll then know, okay, I need so much nitrogen in the beginning because they need it in the early stage of
Right.
growth. And then as you go into flower, you need to hold off on that nitrogen. It breaks down into other parts, into amino acids, which turns it into food for the plant. And you want that plant to absorb the correct food at the right time.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
all cannabis does quite well when you use seaweed and fish mix.
Okay, I've heard of them fish grows where they literally have fish under the grows.
That's another high-tech thing that doesn't really work. There is methods
I
and
like
farms out
the
there.
Is that
theory
for the
behind it.
magnesium?
Everyone loves it, but then when they go and apply it, it doesn't really work.
Okay,
on a
the theory
large
behind it's
scale.
genius. All the shit from the fish feeds the plants feed the
Well, you
fish.
can
and-
literally take the fish tank like there, and you could put in a cup of water, feed that to your plants, and they're
So
benefiting.
would that
off of
water be
it.
better than normal water then because the fish are in there?
This is being filtered. I'm not sure these tropical
Okay,
fish and
yeah,
how
yeah.
they've like dealt with the chlorine of the
Yeah,
water and all
but
that.
in general, if you just had a normal fish tank, if you took that water, it'd probably be better for the plants because it
would
has
be,
that extra
yeah.
nutrients.
It's got
and-
all the food that they want.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
So it's kind of that
all the
way.
bacteria and all that stuff.
Yeah,
the
all the
good bacteria.
organisms,
And, yeah.
all the microbes, everything
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they would need. So there's ways of making nutrients for really nothing, and there's other things you can like make up your own soil by blending stuff. These are all extra
Nice.
details.
Yeah.
But I mean, how they say, traditionally there was never grow shops.
Yeah, of
so
course.
people had to go and garden.
Yeah,
so
try
you
and
would
pretend that they're
understand-
growing tomatoes or
We
something.
like the
and just,
manure from
But
back
that's what
home. You
people
kind of
refer
find
to.
your own.
Yeah.
People refer to cannabis being similar to tomatoes because they
Yeah.
are, and they apply that method to it,
Yeah.
which is about, I'd say, 91% correct. But then
Okay.
it's not cannabis.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So then you have to just realize that people, that yes, a lot of it, if you have no information, you understand how to grow tomatoes, you'll have success with growing cannabis.
You will be able to grow.
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. But, if
But
you-
it won't be perfect or the high quality,
It's-
but
it's-
you'll get it
no,
done.
you'll get high quality.
Okay.
Whereas if you were someone that grows roses and you try to grow cannabis, you might not
With the
adapt
same
to it.
methods, yeah, and the
it's not
same
gonna
skills you
work.
have,
With the same
of course.
soil, it's all different for that
It's more
particular.
veg.
I remember
yeah.
seeing
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like
Yeah.
this kind of, it's like a mini tomato growing box, you know what I mean? It's like a mini fridge, and
Yeah.
they were saying if you put a weed plant in here and just double all the feed for what you would in a tomato, it just grows a little fat weed plant. I remember
Yeah.
seeing it online years ago, so
Yeah,
it was
they've
like
done
a
home boxes
yeah,
and
it's like a
things like
tomato
that.
grower, but if somebody figured out if you just doubled everything and just put your weed plant in there, it will grow. But it's only this size, so it makes it small, fat,
Yeah,
and
these are
compact and
things
all.
kind of ideally the industry has gone in ways of trying to make, because the technology's there with indoor
Yes.
growing,
Yeah.
it's all high tech stuff.
Yeah, trying to make it easier for people to
But
do it. And
most people that start growing this, they typically are in a warmer climate. Like here, it's a bit rough, but
Yeah.
you can still do it.
Yeah.
And if you've never done this before, how would I say it? I wouldn't say go invest all your money on a grow tent, lights and
Yeah.
air filters.
outdoors probably our best way to
It's
practice.
the most, how would I say it? If you get into outdoor growing, you master it. You're really good. It'll look as good as indoors.
And can you get outdoor weed as good as indoor weed?
Yeah, definitely.
You can, yeah?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I remember I was in Lanzarote, I was in some of the cannabis clubs there.
Yeah.
And the weed didn't seem as good here, but I was getting a different high. You know what I mean? I was...
being kissed by the sun.
That's what I mean. I was like,
I
oh,
like
this doesn't
that
seem
piece
like
of
it's
everything.
Amsterdam stuff. And next time I'm smoking, I'm like, I don't feel like this in Amsterdam when I smoke. I was getting a different stone off the Spanish stuff for
Yeah.
sure, and it must be that outdoor.
Yeah.
That's all I could think of it.
But they even
Outdoor,
had it here.
indoor.
Back in the day, they had it here. All the weed was grown in greenhouses, and it was
Yeah.
a strong, high off. Even though those genetics back in the day were like
Is
skunks
that
and
a
all that,
thing?
big time. Yeah, I used to remember.
Because I've said this to a few people, even like as well, like the filter hash and that kind of stuff. As much as it is strong and heavy, like instant, I don't feel the same stone as I did 10 years ago. It's not as long.
Because then that's just your tolerance.
I could be, but I still don't feel as if like it's like, I don't know, as if it's as like.
Like
heavy
I
and
definitely
long.
remember when you were younger, you're like fucking smoking
That'll happen
2 hits
anyway.
off a hash joint, you're like that
Is
fucked.
it just tolerance,
Well, that's
or do you
definitely
think
tolerance.
it's changed?
You
No,
have
I
to
do
remember
think it's
the
changed.
first time you drank
that's
as
what I
well,
wondered, is
like,
the
you know what I
high
mean?
different?
the first time you drank, I'm sure you were a lot drunker than you do get now.
No,
you know
but
what
I mean,
So,
there is the reality that when the indoor grown compared to outdoor grown, like now the technology is there, they can replicate indoor grown with the correct UV light, and it will be like it'll come out super nice, better than typical indoor grown.
Yeah.
But with outdoor grown, traditionally in California places, all outdoor grown. Yeah. And they still outdoor grow. They're very proudly, and they get results. They call it light dep. I don't know if you know what that is.
No.
So
light deprivation?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they have greenhouses there, and they've got curtains, and they can manipulate the 12 hours of darkness, and they can get more grow cycles in the season. So they can roll it out all year long, and they can get a good result. That is,
and it's not lights, nothing. You're literally
no, there's lights added.
Okay.
Yeah, for when there's cloudy days and things like that. And with LEDs, the technology is there. That is quite good.
But you was telling me something about the moving light system.
They've got many methods that's been tried and used in the years. There's indoor motors that move lamps.
Yeah, so it makes it feel like the sun's moving from left to right and stuff.
Yeah, but those things were like they were sort of good ideas in theory.
On paper as well, like the fish.
They didn't deliver what you would expect, and they were let down at the end. And very expensive as well.
But I'd say they still learn, the full method mightn't work, but they probably might learn a little trick to bring back to the other methods, you know what I mean? When you try all these different, the lights moving, the fish, all this. So you learn something that mightn't work itself, but you might learn something that will help your normal grow, you know what I mean? By trying these new...
Well, you have to learn it all around. I mean, I've failed a load of times with this. But then you figure out the method, and you'll figure out someone else like myself. Many young growers will come around me, and they'll have questions. Like here in the Cannabis College, I met many people walking in the door that were lost and only had questions, and they're in places where they can't talk about this.
Yeah, of course.
So like you can't in a coffee shop.
You haven't got
the bud tenders might have the knowledge or the resource.
No, I'm a bud tender. I don't have the knowledge. You know what I mean?
The thing about this place is people really would come to Amsterdam for the coffee shop thing with their friends, and the grower or the young grower that it'd be would know about this place or have heard of it, and they'd make their way here not knowing what is this, and they'd come in that door, and then you realise, oh wait. So I do this and that in my grow, and I got these little spiders that run around my plants. Well, that's not good.
Yeah, of course. Spiders are never
good. So you explain to them where their problems are going and how to cure that, and then they come over, they come back months later, and they tell you it worked. You give them little tips and tricks when they're telling you what they're struggling with. And it's great to see them come back.
No, of course.
For years, people come back.
And
then they advance, and like in California, there's a lot of guys that came out here, and in California, imagine it's very vast. You don't have your friend next door to go talk to them about what am I doing wrong with my plants. But over here, you literally got grows going on downstairs and people that know about growing. So when you have a problem, they'll identify, oh, you need to do this to correct it. You know, this is kind of the goodness about getting that information out here, because otherwise, originally back in the day, there was no online presence, and this was really the mecca of coming here for the information. Then later on, there's an explosion of information. There's too much. And to have someone to come face to face.
Yeah, you don't even know who to believe anymore. It's just flooded.
You're not sure whose side are they on. What nutrient company are they sponsoring? There's lots of these things that can be left at
once money comes into it, everything gets around.
Translation, you know. So that the easiest way is to come one-to-one in Amsterdam to this place, and you get the basics down. And once you get the basics down of growing and you understand all of these elements, then you can say how far do you want to go with it. Do you want to go to California or Canada and grow massively? And that's the opportunity that, like many of the guys have gone and done. They've had success with it, others have failed. Then you could be one of those people to go to Spain and work with the clubs down there and the social clubs. And you know, laws have definitely changed down there lately.
It's only getting more and more options as the world opens more. You know what I mean? It's not a bad thing to have in your CV anymore. You know what I mean?
It's going to be a real education. Then we're here in the college with this. It was your certification of growing, and now they will do diplomas.
That's it. There'll be a whole agricultural kind of grow college for cannabis. You know, as it gets legal, especially probably in Canada, they probably have courses and skills and all, because now they're doing it legal. They need a lot of people to do it. You know what I mean?
So the most professional people that will grow in other industries of agriculture, that they come into this on a major scale and they fail at it because they're not growers. So you have to love the plant.
That's it.
No, on the
it's same with coffee shops. Some of the owners come in, they're businessmen. They think they can run a business. But you don't know the weeds. You don't know the game. You know what I mean? The same with growing. You can be the best grower in the world, but if you don't know weeds, you're not going to succeed in this. You know what I mean? So.
But that's the thing about like the trial and error, and especially with the growing aspect of it. Like I say, a lot of people are going to fail.
Yeah, you learn more from failure than you do from success. Like,
but it's the thing about wanting to try it again. And
yeah,
like
well, that's it. Does it knock you back? Does it put you off?
Well,
You know
there's
what I mean?
things of legalization, like how far do you want to go? Because let's say here in Netherlands, you are allowed your 5 plants, but let's say you've got your little teenagers that we speak about that are grown and they're ready to go outdoors. Now, let's say 2 of those die. So you're going to grow another 5 seeds. Now you've got 8 plants, and you're already breaking the law.
Yeah.
So you have to go to a certain threshold.
You couldn't put in 2 seeds at a different stage.
Of course you can. Yeah.
You can. Yeah. And just that'll be later.
Yeah, you can do that. They'll be smaller. You know?
Yeah.
When you start early in the season, you'll get your big plants.
Well, if they're side by side, the younger ones wouldn't be affected by the older ones or anything like that.
That now again is on a genetic thing. If it's all the same genetic, then obviously the younger ones are going to stay smaller. But you could have, let's say, strawberry sour diesel here as mother plants growing away.
Yeah.
And then you want to put in 2 amnesia haze. Those amnesia haze plants will probably grow as big as these plants.
Okay, because they're not.
So
they're vigorous.
They follow each other. In
No.
that way?
I'm saying the genetic is vigorous of amnesia haze.
Okay,
so you put amnesia haze out pretty late into the season, you get a big
amnesia
plant.
just grows.
It's a
monster.
Yeah. It's one of the
little
easiest
strain
ones
they can.
to do. But it's one of the ones that, like, as like how they say, personal smoker, I don't like amnesia.
I don't like it. Of all the haze, I don't like the taste of hazes, but the buzz of amnesia is probably my favourite because it's kind of that kind of goofy high, you know what I mean? That kind of, it's like an indicator in the brain, nearly, I'd explain it as, you know what I mean?
But it's the thing of it being done, like you were saying, the way, like, you're not really, like, the high is different to what it was 10 years ago. When we got Silver Haze, like, years when it first came out, that was really nice. And what we have now is just a resemblance of it. It's not really what it was. But it was done in smaller batches. Now it's commercialized and it's everywhere, and now that's the problem of, like, there's too much of that supply.
You're
and it's
losing
not they're losing
genetics.
terps, they're losing, like, certain things. Like, they're not adding in the nutrients that other guys did originally. So, you know, as it goes further and further out, there's a thing, people's wallet, because you can spend a lot on this as well. And as a hobbyist and a grow, your whole intention of, say, starting to outdoor grow, it's cheap, it's cheerful, and if you get a result, good on you.
That's
you know,
it.
but when you invest into a whole grow setup, if
And
you
it
fail,
fails,
it really doesn't help your pocket unless you got wealthy income.
And it would
coming
really
in.
probably deter you from doing it again, you know what I mean? If an outdoor one fails, you're like, fuck it, I'll throw a few more seeds out, but an indoor one, you're like, fuck, I put a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort. And
but then there's the pro and con of both, and if you do the indoor thing, your chances of success are a bit more higher than outdoor, because outdoor you got all the elements, so you could have, like, what's typical of, like, some creatures going to come and eat your plant, rabbits. So rabbits will eat, like, the little young sprouts. If you put them out right away, like with hemp seeds, they throw out thousands because they grow monstrous. They're quite adaptable. But, you know, rabbits and things like that will eat those sprouts, and birds and things like this. So if you got your 5 plants and 2 birds come and take, like, 2 of those plants, it upsets your day. And they do swoop down, and, like, they have had it.
Greenhouses are legal. That's technically still outdoor, isn't it?
In Netherlands?
Yeah.
On the greenhouse aspect, I suppose it'd be more down to your discretion, because here in Holland it's about, like, you don't go outside to the front street and grow your plants. That's forbidden. But
It's
if you
like in
keep
the
it
backyard or
discreetly in
balcony.
your balcony and
But let's
no
say
one's bothered
let's
by
say
it,
you have a
it's quite
garden,
acceptable.
instead of just putting it in your flower bed, could you put it in a greenhouse?
Absolutely.
Like
Okay,
one of
so
the
it's
small
A greenhouse is
tomato
a shelter.
ones.
It's not considered like
Indoor grow or
An
anything.
indoor grow has got the lamp, electricity.
Okay, you're
and
still using the
water.
elements. You're just giving it a little boost with the glass.
With the greenhouse thing, that's acceptable because that's exterior and you're not adding any dangers to it. Whereas with indoor growing, there is electricity and water. They don't
of
typically
course.
mix.
So
there's
is
a
it more?
concern.
Is it more down to the health and safety to do with us not being able to indoor grow, rather than them just to do with the cannabis?
Well, it's a bit of both, really.
Okay.
Because grows can be dangerous, I suppose.
They
Never
don't,
even thought of it
they
that
don't
way.
want people to run out there now and say, oh, we can definitely grow indoors because they said it. They don't want to be that person to do that. But there is a tolerance around Netherlands that I know neighbourhoods where they've accepted it, that this is personal grow of local people. And they're not going to kick in their door for a 1 metre tent. And those people don't take the piss. They're allowed their 5 plants. They grow their 5 plants. And
It's
they
their
get
That's it.
personal
If you have a little greenhouse outside and a little tent inside, what's the difference, really? You know what I mean? Like,
But
it's
again, due to how they say it, like, when I say using fluorescent lights as a start, that's quite acceptable because the low voltage and the low power.
Back in the day, it was a bit more fire hazard. And
well, when
shit
you
like
look at
this,
these grow
dangerous.
lights, they're minimum 600 watts, or well, even 400 watt will do, but typically 600 watts
Yeah.
to 1,000 watts.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit of juice.
Yeah.
So it's just a concern for, like you could burn down the apartment if you didn't wire correctly.
Yeah.
Of course. You have a little
so it is a mix
tent
of both
as well.
then.
Yeah.
That kind of puts you don't mind so much. That's more,
No, I
they're
never
just
even
kinda-
thought of it till you said it. That like
it's on a health and
safety
safety
reasons.
buzz
Yeah,
rather
but
than
it's-
them just being like,
But
right, you
that's their
can't grow.
stance. They
Good.
could make this that they could sell us a government-approved light intense.
Yeah, you know what I mean. You can grow if you have the
Everyone get one sent
Well,
out
they're
to the
not-
You have to get an
house.
electrician out to make sure everything's above board.
It should be.
But
well,
that
that's
would
the way
be
it should be.
beautiful,
Yeah.
though.
Oh yeah, it probably will
It'd be
get
like
there
the gas
eventually.
man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't let a uncertified
Yeah.
gas
Yeah,
installer
it'd
touch
be-
your.
that'd be the way
Your grow house.
Yeah.
But with the
But
way they
it's
want it,
not
they're
a
gonna
bad
put in-
idea.
They're going to put into these factories, and they really
Well,
want it like no
what's-
one grows their own tobacco to smoke.
Yeah.
No,
and
yeah.
like
No one
before
makes their
that
own
was-
alcohol.
But before it was that people made
Back in
their
the
own
day they
alcohol.
did, yeah, and now they do with their little home brews and stuff.
Yeah.
Which way can't you have a home grow? You know what I mean? It's the same thing. You do a home
but
brew,
it's
you do a
kind of
home
the way
grow.
This is like the government's idea of this is that it's for your safety, which they're correct to say in certain ways. 'Cause
Yeah.
you could be adding pesticides that are harmful.
Of course.
You know, and unaware of that because
That's-
there's no education.
That's the same
Yeah.
reason why BHO is illegal, isn't it? Because it's dangerous to manufacture.
Yes, in the original laws, it was like said that hash oil was forbidden because they used to make a crude method of it, and they burnt down some buildings here. I believe that was the case.
I well believe it.
Yeah,
Can you
and
imagine the idiot stoners? I can do this.
And in the 70s
You know what I mean?
as well,
Oh,
but
fucking
you have to
hell.
understand back then when they did these laws, they never had the idea that, imagine back in the 70s, late 70s when they introduced
There
these
was
laws,
hash and a
it
bit
was
of
for
weed.
hash.
Yeah.
And then when you said to someone like, hey, I want to grow cannabis inside under artificial light, they think you were a lunatic.
Yeah.
And
Because
nowadays...
they were getting their hash from Morocco or Afghanistan or whatever, you know
but
what I
they were
mean?
getting their
In
weed
natural.
from Jamaica, they were getting their weed from Thailand.
Okay, it was. They never even heard of indoor grows at this stage.
It
like.
was just a mad concept. Why
Yeah.
would you do that? You know, the electricity bill alone.
Because
is-
you
Yeah.
know, it's not even the veg hadn't
Yeah.
really been done that way.
Yeah,
like
nobody's bringing a
vegetables or
tomato
fruit or
field inside or anything,
so
like,
much,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
so it's just a concept that kind of
Interesting,
went
yeah.
beyond the idea of the law, and then this whole, how they say, demand of it around the coffee shops blew it up.
Yeah.
And of course, the Americans coming here, there was a period probably before you were here, a lot of Americans would come here and they would literally come here and learn their grow and buy their seeds and take it back to America. And
Okay,
like I say with Sensi Seed, a lot of their genetics are the building blocks of the stuff we have today.
yeah.
So
Wow,
yeah, they really
okay,
have
they
that history.
proper- yeah.
But you know, as far as the world of seeds goes now, there's so
Yeah.
much out there you don't know what to get or where to
Yeah.
go. So it's hard to
Literally.
even direct anyone, hey, start with these. But myself, I will say I started with Skunk One.
Okay,
Yeah,
that was your
nice.
first.
Sensi
That was
seed,
your
yeah.
first one that wasn't found in a bag,
yeah,
like.
Premier.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
done
yeah.
with purpose. So it was done with the intention of making
Yeah.
a seed.
Yeah.
So the
Okay.
genetics were vigorous, man. It was so
Wow.
good. I still remember that plant.
Oh,
actually.
yeah.
I'd say it was a lovely confidence boost.
Yeah.
You know what I
yeah.
mean? As a
I can do
grower,
this.
yeah,
Yeah,
you know what I
for
mean?
sure.
Make up your mind
It's
to
a
like,
hobby,
like
yeah.
now I know what they're saying, and then I started coming back here regularly buying seeds from other seed companies as well. There's a company, Serious Seeds. They had a thing called White Russian.
Yeah.
I've heard of
Loved
it,
that.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
was so good. It was a time when
yeah.
White Widow just hit the
That was
scene.
like the new
Okay.
school of the old school, like.
yeah. But then very quickly evolved because it started to explode. That people started to meet each other, and all these small growers would find something
Understand more.
special, and they would cross it with something. And this is the time of regular seeds as well. Feminized only came in there about, I'd say, 20 odd years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe a little
People
longer.
start messing with it a bit more, like.
Yeah, well, they figured out this technique, and that took over the scene. So the genetics, again, another thing is saying of dilution of it.
Yeah.
Prior to that, it was all done regular seeds, so everything was pedigree. Nowadays,
okay.
everything is so watered down because of
It's all
feminization.
Yeah.
Typically, you get seeds from someone that'll say they're regular seeds, and like, but what's the female and male?
Yeah.
And if
Both
they
the
don't
male.
know that female could have come from a feminized seed, and now you crossed it with a male, it's still not
Okay,
a
yeah.
top seed. It's got
It's like
flaws.
inbreeding now on top of
Yeah.
inbreeding.
Yeah, well, there is a thing that
Yeah.
a scale here they would judge, and I don't even go there anymore. They call them F1 strains and S1 strains. and
I'm
they-
hearing a bit of that.
Yeah,
What
so
does
this
that
is
mean?
the,
I
it's
know.
the
Okay,
general-
Okay, you just heard it.
I'm just like, when I hear, I'm like, what?
So in
Cars?
this
Formula One
Yeah,
strains.
that's what
That's what I
my brain
In
thought.
this
Yeah.
book, it tells you exactly what they are, but like
Okay,
I've lost
dying to
the
read
interest
this.
in it now because what it is that when you would start with a male, female, these would be the what would I say it was called again? The originals, what do we call those S1s again? These are the original plant. Let's say
Okay.
skunk 1 male.
Yeah,
A,
yeah.
And then skunk 1 female.
Okay.
And you would cross this male plant A or B because you'd have different versions of a male. So if you use this male, it's going to be different to that male. It's like two different daddies. So
yeah.
then they would cross that into this female, and that's the original S1 seed. Then you have the F1 seed, where you grow out these seeds, and those offspring, you would take the original male A, and you would cross it again off the offspring seeds, and that makes it more stable. So then they had F2, F3. That was the original way it was done with breeding.
Okay, so it's kind of like the family tree off it and then back in.
You kind of keep a bit of inbreeding in to keep the strength. It's the opposite of humans.
Yeah, it's the way it's done.
The more inbreeding, the better in the plant world.
It was the farming method that they approached it like that. With the Sensi Seed had a place before where they would make all their seeds in greenhouses. It was out in Rotterdam called the Cannabis Castle.
Okay,
this is where it was like when the law was like, okay, we don't know what the law is, but you can do what you do until we decide otherwise. And they stopped them doing it after a certain period. But all those seeds were made under, how do I say it, artificial light greenhouses, so they had sunlight. So those seeds were very big, solid, and they were really
more natural.
Very stable. And
like larger than these?
Sometimes, but you can get tiny seeds as well of hazes. They had them all the
Would
shapes
haze
and
be
sizes.
smaller?
Yeah, typically. A real haze, a true haze, they're very small seeds.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Can you tell what kind of strains you are from looking at seeds?
No, they're like seeds is seed.
Sizes might tell you something.
Such you can, like from experience, you can recognize, I know that's a cheese, and I know that this is a widow, and I know that's a haze. Those things you can tell from looking at it in a certain
At a seed?
At a seed, no.
Okay.
With a plant when it's growing out.
Yeah. But I mean, like you were saying, they're different sizes. Would that if it's small, it's probably a haze. If it's bigger, it's maybe this.
I would give a guess at that for sure. Or it could be just poor breeding, and you got small seeds. There's so many variations to say about that, But typically, when they're bred on purpose, they're done with good, solid intention. You remove all the white, premature seeds. Because when you get a bud, like when you smoke a bud, that's a virgin bud sensimilian without seed. So those pods that we smoke, they're wrapped in THC. That usually develops like the seed inside there. So what happens is there's a male plant. Is typically the male releases pollen. Have you ever seen male plants?
I've seen
they
it
look
with the
funky. They look different.
I wouldn't know how to tell the difference between a female and a male, to be honest.
When someone points it out again in this book, you see it clear as night as day. But these things are like easy to identify, and they would take this like male, and they let the pollen. It's like a dust. So it goes up in the air and it gets everywhere. So the female plants, those little white hairs.
They're looking for the females.
They're looking to receive that pollen.
The little white hairs.
Yeah. So once the pollen touches those little stigmas, they'll turn back into the pod, and they'll start developing the seed.
And is it just around them little pod things you're saying?
In there. That's basically
so
the
it's
womb.
kind of doesn't really matter about where else on the plant, but that little.
That's where the seed is going to develop. So what we're smoking is their empty pods. They're basically like that's where the seed development should be.
Get it.
So there's basically it's just like THC covered all over it, and that's the plant material. But originally that's how wild weed was. You would have heard that weed always had seeds. Because it was naturally outdoors and male females. And no one knew about removing the males.
Like back in the day, they'd smoke the sticks and the seeds because there was some THC in it.
Smoke everything. I did. I remember getting Thai stick and smoking. I even smoked
I've
seeds.
smoked Thai stick in Thailand. And fucking, at least there, you know what I mean? I'm in Thailand. It's better.
But you would
than
know
nothing.
when you're smoking a seed as well.
When you get a seed, I always find you get the smell first, and then you always see it's bellowing the smoke faster. Like,
it ruins the joint.
Man, there's nothing worse to get that seed. So if you've got a seed, does that mean the plant was like overgrown, or it went wrong, or should you be smoking something that had a seed in it?
Ideally, no, but I mean, it's a thing of like, there's many factors of environment. Was that growing outdoors, and did the guy have the education? Or he just didn't know that bud filled up with seeds. I mean, the only way to know that a bud has seeds is when you squeeze it when it's fresh, late into flower. Because as well, when you get seed development, you're unaware of it even happened till a later stage that you can recognize the plants are going different. You squeeze the buds, you can feel these little like timbals and stuff.
Like tiny marbles kind of nearly
and then you notice.
I remember getting a strain before, I can't remember where, and I think I got about 10 seeds in a gram.
You'll get a lot.
Like literally, I'm like that, picking out the gram, and it's seed after seed after seed, and I'm like, what? There's more seeds than fucking weed. Like
you can get a million seeds out of a small little grow environment. There's a lot of return.
That happen on one cluster and not another?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it can
So one nug out of the whole yield might have full of seeds and the rest be all fine.
It seems to happen people all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
So if one like you're not guaranteed the whole harvest is
No,
full.
well,
it's
it
just
freak you out because you wonder how much else is in there.
Yeah,
you
you'd
know.
say-
yeah, no,
squeezing
you'd start
everything.
thinking they're all fucked.
So
Yeah,
you
of
have to
course.
test your product in and go
Yeah,
through quite
no,
a bit of it and
yeah.
make sure that it's all clean.
You'd have to
Yeah.
take random nugs from everywhere and see.
Yeah, so it can be devastating that if you're someone that like encounters that. I'd put it like this: that's one major disaster, but there's many others.
Oh,
that
I'd
can
say
happen.
so.
Yeah.
You can
Between
get molds,
mold,
you can get
mites.
insects, you
Yeah.
can get all kinds of like the heat waves and
Every
stuff
time we
that
talk
stress
about
you
it, the
out.
perfect thing is behind it. There's a
This is
decayed
great.
plant behind us.
It's not planned or anything. This
Yeah,
is
no, literally, just every time you mention it, it just comes up on the screen, so
yeah,
that's
but this,
perfectly.
again, this info that they have here, they've collected
they've
it all
a
over.
bag.
It's
the
just
years
constant
and-
information, like.
But it's that thing of displaying it to you, of like, you know, they're not telling you to do that here.
Yeah.
They're just displaying the information.
Just
This is
do
what
it,
is.
do it what you want with this
Yeah,
information, but here it is,
so
kind
they
of
offer
thing.
you
You
the
know.
books here, they offer you the space to like learn and enjoy it, and you
Yeah.
know, they hold events here, and it's all good for
Yeah,
the
they do a
community.
lot of stuff for the community.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Okay.
It's 5 o'clock, so it's gonna have to
Yeah.
wrap it up soon.
Oh, that's good, lads.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'd say now we've done this thing with the help of our friends from Cannabis
Yeah,
College.
thanks so much,
NCC,
to
and
Canada,
we're only
Cannabis
getting
College.
started as far as the germination.
Yeah, I'm
This is
excited.
the whole thing.
So,
about
just
growing.
quickly, what would you do after this now, after 24 hours?
Yeah, I would expect to see some sprouts. I would check them.
Right.
So I would check every 12 hours. I would keep looking. I just
Yeah.
nosy for
So
that.
when they start coming out a little bit,
Yeah, so some people take that too far. For me, I like as soon as I see the shell crack, I
Yeah.
like to see the sprout come out. I put it into the soil.
right?
Okay.
Other people, I think they're lazy. They allow it to let it grow and stretch
They,
out.
they think it stronger for
It
it.
stresses it out.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone has their own.
The minute
thought
they're out,
process.
they want to
Because
be
you
in the
kind of
soil.
want it to get adjust to the soil more
Yeah.
than
You-
the water.
Yeah, you want it to adapt to the soil environment because that's where it's going
That's
to
it.
be.
As soon
Yeah,
as it
rather
gets its
than
head
get
out, it's like,
comfy
You
where's...
don't want it to stress out here because they can
Yeah.
overgrow. If you ignore them and leave them in the jar, you forget because they're stoners.
Yeah,
You come
yeah,
back
yeah.
A week later, there's going to be
So-
big straws of
Yeah.
because it's a weed. It
And
wants
now
to
it's
survive.
that's ungrowable
Yeah,
now.
that-
That's
No, it's not ungrowable. You can still survive.
Oh, yeah?
You can get it to go.
Yeah.
But I've forgotten the seeds, and I look in the cupboard, and there's big white strings, straws
Yeah.
going everywhere. I throw it into soil. Next thing I got plants. You know?
Okay.
Like I've
Yeah.
got friends that got like seeded weed.
yeah.
And you know they got rid of the seeds all, and
Yeah.
they threw them out the back garden, and the conditions were perfect. They were
And
all
it just
summer
took
cutting
off by
down
itself.
plants. Yeah,
Oh.
naturally.
Wow.
Every day my
Beautiful.
body was coming out
Like,
cutting down
not
at
my
least 3 or
fault.
4.
I didn't do it. You know what I
But
mean?
it was a handful, which is a lot.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can see here, there's a lot of seeds.
So yeah, if
Yeah.
you just threw that into the grass, you just walk around the city, just find
Check
them
the
around. You know what I
beanstalk,
mean? And
you
just
know.
see what happens.
Yeah, it's like this is like it's
Just go
Jack
into
and
the
beanstalk
park
to me.
somewhere and
just
Golden
randomly
goose
chow
is the weed.
seeds.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
this. You can be. People have done that.
Yeah,
There's
I'd
guys
say
down
so.
in the fun park back in the day used to give out free seeds to people
Just
to
throw it
encourage
around.
them to grow. This was the hippie movement.
Yeah.
Legends.
Now
though.
we're under
Yeah.
legislation and we're all trying
Yeah,
to
and
just
people
not
want to
rock
make
the
money on
boat.
it. They're not giving it away for free anymore.
Well, it's the thing of like back in the day, it was all about the free spirit. Nowadays, it's about how much can my wallet get.
Yeah,
paid.
that's
But
it.
Also, they're
Did it-
pushing it all towards legalization with the legal grows and all that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they will remove a lot of the nonsense more.
Of
and
course,
more.
that's
And
it. It's
like-
all it's
Well, if you're,
stepping stones.
if you're
Yeah,
really
like
passionate,
like
they're
to
going to
do.
stick with it. And
Yeah.
there, lads, do you know what? We'll wrap it up for today.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you
this
so
was
much.
great.
We've learned so
Really,
much. We
thank
need
you
to
for
do it
everything.
again.
Yeah.
Because I've known nothing, so
We're only
this is a
beginning.
little bit.
This is the start
Yeah,
of it.
hopefully I can remember half of it, but we'll
I'll
definitely go
also
over it
keep-
all again.
Yeah.
No,
And what's
big
the name of the
time.
book in case anyone wants to look at
This
it?
is the Jorge Cervantes is the marijuana horticulture, the indoor-outdoor medical growers Bible.
Right,
We all
so-
refer to it as the growers Bible.
The Growers
Yeah,
Bible.
that's
So
how you're- yeah,
if you
bang.
want to grow, this is what you need.
This
Yeah,
is the
down to the
encyclopedia
Cannabis
for you,
College.
but if you want to grow, there's a whole pile
There's
of other
millions of
books.
ways,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I would highly recommend Soma Seeds book because it's the most simple,
Yeah.
straightforward. Ed Rosenthal's a great author.
I
favour
might
him.
get you to give me a list of all the ones and I'll put them in
They're the
the...
most recognised, but to be honest, with Google searching, all the information is there. How do I grow cannabis? And you get the basics.
Yeah.
But this is
Okay.
the reference book for any problems
Yeah.
or
I
questions
like
you
that.
have. You can go to this.
I'll put them
before
all
you-
in the description of this video, all the names
Yeah.
of the videos. You let us know
Yeah,
what they're called
yeah.
and I'll just leave them in so
Yeah.
people can Google them and get them or
Yeah.
whatever. So
Yeah, let's
No,
do
yeah,
it.
like
perfect.
that.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you so
Thanks
much,
for
Sarah. You're a
today.
legend.
Okay.
Right, so fucking hopefully we get to do this again. Thanks
Yeah.
if you're still
That was
watching.
good.
Like, subscribe, and check out the Cannabis College.
That's it.
They have
Cannabis College.
Facebook and Instagram, I'm
They have
sure.
Facebook, Instagram, but
Yeah.
make sure you type in the Cannabis College because they get shadow banned like any other
Yeah,
one.
Yeah.
like any true cannabis influencer.
So you have to dig deep.
Yeah,
you'll
so
find
check
it.
out the Cannabis
worth it.
College, support them, come down, check out the college, learn how to grow, and check out Devilharvest on Instagram. And thanks very much.
Yeah. Legends.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
All right.